What do you get where you have a 7-foot intergalactic alien drug dealer come to Earth, extracting a drug from people's brains and killing them, and Dolph Lundgren as a cop that has to stop him? A damn good time. Let's get into it. And the movie I'm referring to, as we knew it back in the 90s, I Come in Peace, or now it's called Dark Angel. And the reason why there's two different titles was when it was originally released in theaters. In Europe, it was called Dark Angel. In America, for the theatrical release in America, it was called I Come in Peace. Now, if you buy the Blu-ray off of Amazon or from Scream Factory, it's called Dark Angel. But if you open up the case and pull up the Blu-ray, there's the poster for I Come in Peace there. I don't know why, if it's a rights thing or what, but now it's called Dark Angel. And this movie was released in September of 1990. It's rated R, and it's only an hour and 31 minutes long, folks. It's a short, quick, cool little action sci-fi movie. And they made this movie on a budget of $7-8 million, and it only made $4.3 million at the box office, which is unfortunate. I think it just has a very interesting storyline, and it's a damn fun movie. But let's get into it a little bit. This movie was directed by Craig R. Baxley. Craig R. Baxley was just coming off of Action Jackson. This was his film after that. Then after this, he wanted to do Stone Cold, which I did a review for a few weeks back. If you want to find that review, just scroll on down and you'll see it. The movie is Dolph Lundgren is the star of the film. He plays Detective Jack Kane. We got Brian Benben as Agent Smith. He's an FBI agent. You'll remember Brian Benben mostly from an early 90s HBO series called Dream On. Later on, he was also in when Masters of Horror was on Showtime, he was in John Landis's one episode. Betsy Brantley plays Diane, Dolph Lundgren's love interest in the film. She also plays the city coroner. And Matthias Hughes plays the big-ass alien bad guy. And this guy is definitely very intimidating, for sure. Guy's like 7 feet tall in a goddamn movie. And funny thing is, Matthias Hughes is so big that I was watching the making of documentary after I was done watching the film last night again. I've seen it before, but Craig R. Baxley went on to say about how Matthias Hughes had to do most of his own stunts. Thank God he was a triathlete. So he's very athletic, and he could do his own stunts. He wasn't afraid to. But Craig R. Baxley said we had to have him do his own stunts. We didn't have a stuntman that could double him. He was so damn big. Also, the movie was originally called, in its first early stages of development, was called Lethal Contact. Obviously, the title changed later on. And David Coop actually did a rewrite of this film. Same gentleman who wrote Jurassic Park and other films for Steven Spielberg. Anyway, at the beginning of this movie, we see this guy driving through downtown Houston. And the streets are pretty empty. It's Christmas time. And the guy gets distracted and he ends up crashing his car in his Christmas tree lot. And he gets out of the car and he starts walking away from a little bit. He's about, 15, 20 feet away. And all of a sudden he hears something coming through the air. And you don't really see anything. And all of a sudden this car explodes. And this big freaking dude starts walking towards him. His eyes are all white. He looks human, but he's huge and his eyes are all white, just whited out. And he walks up to the guy, knocks him down, and says the tagline for the movie, I come in peace. And this thing comes out of his wrist. He has this thing on his wrist. And this little black line comes out and goes into the guy's chest. He pumps him full of drugs, and then he uses this crystal clear prod coming out of this thing on his wrist, and punctures it right into the middle of his head, right about here, and it extracts his endorphins, which is important later. It explains why he's doing this. And then we're introduced to a couple of criminals who break into the evidence locker at the police station. And these guys are members of this gang called the White Boys. They're white-collar, yuppie gangsters. It's weird, but it works for the movie. And they blow up at the police station when they're leaving, and they leave with all this heroin. This is when we're introduced to Dolph Lundgren's character. He's on a stakeout with his partner. Well, actually, his partner's inside this nightclub with these gangsters, the White Boys, trying to get dirt on them so they can arrest them, get them off the streets. And this is where we're introduced. Howard Sherman's in this movie. He played Bub in Day of the Dead. He was also in Lethal Weapon and other movies. He plays the main gangster. And Dolph Lundgren's outside listening because his partner's wired. And just as they're getting into the deal, Dolph Lundgren notices these guys go by with guns and they're going to this market. And he's like, oh, shit. So he gets out of the car and he goes into the market to stop it. And when he enters the market, the guy turns around, sees him coming, and Dolph Lundgren does a spin kick and kicks him in the head, knocks him out. And funny enough, reading some trivia, when Dolph Lundgren entered the market, the take is in the film. The actor who played one of the bad guys that he was going to kick in the head was off his mark, and when Dolph went to do the spin kick, he slipped a little bit, and he actually did he made contact with the guy and knocked him out for real. And once he thwarts the crime, he goes back, and this is when he learns that his partner was killed and they're gone. But what he didn't know, or what nobody saw, was after Howard Sherman and a couple of goons leave, the other guys are cleaning up the mess, and the alien shows up, and he has the thing on it is like almost a utility belt on his wrist, and this little disc comes out and goes around the room and cuts all their throats and kills everybody, and the alien takes the heroin and takes off. And at this point, his boss wants him to take a vacation. But the FBI shows up, and they want him on the case because he's familiar with the white boys. Everybody thinks it's about drugs, which the FBI is on to something else. They know about the alien. Kind of like Predator 2, in a way. And he gets stuck with Brian Benben, which he doesn't want. And Brian Benben's character is kind of a douche at first. For the first half of the movie, Brian Benben's character is not very likable. He just comes off as an arrogant douchebag. And they're investigating, and they get to a point in the movie where they realize, or Dolph Lundgren realizes that they might be dealing with an alien, and he knows this sounds batshit crazy, and he says this to Brian Benben's character. He goes, "Look, you're overworked. Everybody needs rest. You should go home and get some sleep." And right after this, Dolph Lundgren actually has an encounter with the alien. He goes to do this drug deal for the white boys. And because he has to, they have leverage on him. They threaten to kill Brian Benben's character, which they thwart all that. But in the alleyway, he has an encounter. He sees this alien and this good alien cop that comes to Earth to try to stop the bad alien. And the good alien cop gets hurt. And they don't know what's going on. But when they get in Dolph Lundgren's car at one point, the good alien's in the back of the car, and he explains that the bad aliens come to Earth to get this drug. He's pumping people full of drugs and then sucking out the endorphins through their brain, and he's putting in these little vials he can sell it on his world for a premium. It's an illegal drug. It's considered an illegal drug where they come from. And he dies, but they get his gun, these souped up guns that are really cool. And then by the end of the movie, his girlfriend's involved too, because she comes to his apartment and the white boys show up, try to kill him, and the alien shows up. There's a chase scene. And then we have our final battle at the cement plant that looks like a lot like the cement plant that was from RoboCop. It probably was, because I know RoboCop filmed around Houston. And eventually Dolph Lundgren has the last hand-to-hand combat with the alien, and he ends up killing him. And he has the famous line at the end. The alien's going, "I come in peace," and he goes, "You're going to pieces, asshole," and he shoots him and blows him up. And that's the end of the movie. And honestly, Craig R. Baxley does a nice job with the action. There's some really good action scenes in this film. It's amazing what they were able to do with $7 to $8 million. Matthias Hughes is great as the alien. He's very intimidating. And there's a scene in the movie where the good cop, this is more towards the beginning, where the good cop finds the bad alien in this parking garage. He had just killed this guy that works at the parking garage and just got done extracting the drug out of his head. And the good cop, the alien, shows up. And Matthias Hughes has to run across the hood of these cars, across this parking garage, and behind him the good cop's shooting, and each car is blowing up behind him, and they did it for real. This is before CGI, so it had to be done for real, and it looks great. It's well shot. There's exciting action in this movie for a lower budget film, and it's a shame it didn't do better. In my opinion, this is a movie that's ripe for a remake. You could really do this well with like a $40 to $50 million budget and do some interesting things with it. There's a lot of interesting things that they didn't do with this film. I mean, it was more like a little exploitation film that they made, a little action exploitation film. And it's great. Don't get me wrong. I enjoyed this film. I've watched it many times over the years. But this is one film I would be psyched to see a remake for if they did it right. It has to be R-rated, but there's some interesting things they could do with this concept. But overall, I really like this film. Dolph Lundgren's great. Brian Benben's good as the dick FBI agent that finally comes around towards the end. All the actors do fine. It's well directed. If you've never seen it, I highly recommend it. I would give this film a 7.5 out of 10. There's a few things that drag it down a little bit, but I'm not going to shit on it. I want to be positive here. I do really like this film. If you've never seen it, I highly recommend it. Like, again, 7.5 out of 10 for me for I Come in Peace or Dark Angels, it's known now. Have you ever seen this film? What are your thoughts on this movie? Leave a comment down below. If you enjoyed this review, hit the thumbs up for me. I would greatly appreciate that. And if you like my content, hit the subscribe button. Join me here. I'd appreciate that as well. And I hope you're all safe out there. laugh a little bit, and take care of yourselves. And I'll be back soon with another review. Have a great day. Bye.